Well, thank you for sticking with us here on 10 Tampa Bay Plus as we're going to continue to talk about the weather. We got quite a bit of activity going on, and this is the time of the year where we usually transition to a very busy pattern. 90% of all hurricanes happen after August the 1st. Of course, that was on Friday, and over the weekend, we just saw a lot of activity come up. We got meteorologist Mike Prangley over there. He's ready to come in. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, not only talk about the tropics, and we're going to talk about our pattern shift. We were pretty dry last week, hot, dry, had a lot of heat around with those weather impact alert days due to the excessive heat. Of course, broke a couple of records. A little over a week ago on Sunday, Tampa hit 100 for the first time ever. And then a couple days later, we hit 119 for that heat index. Luckily, we're not going to be quite as hot, but it just shows you how much heat that we have across the area. And take a look at your tropics. And this is what we're looking at. Again, quite a few things going on right now. One system and two potential systems which will break down. And the good news is, want to start off with this. There is nothing that's going to be threatening our coast as we go throughout the next about 7 days at least. So all three of these systems, again, not looking to threaten us, but we'll talk about all three of these systems, of course, because we got some stuff going on right now. Take a look again at one that is a wave that's coming off the coast of Africa. It has a 0% potential over the next 2 days. It's not off the coast yet, but a couple of days from now, it's going to be in that orange area. That's where it has a 50% potential for tropical development. And then you look at the east coast, and that's where you see another system, 0% for the next couple days, but 30 low over the next 7 days. That's all part of a stalled system that actually Dexter formed off of. There is Tropical Storm Dexter, and again, we've been talking about Dexter for the past couple of weeks because we had a couple of invests that had the potential to become a Tropical Storm Dexter, which never did. And now we do have 45-mile-per-hour winds. Your pressure is at 1,002 and is moving to the northeast at 14 miles an hour. And the good news is, again, it is going to be moving away from us, so we've got no worries with this one. Take a look at your, what we call the spaghetti plots. These are all the forecast models. And anytime you see kind of like a kink or a loop in there, typically that denotes stalling. But as you can see, it is moving its way towards the northeast. So again, that one is going to be moving its way away from us. Here's better news. So this is the latest forecast model, and you can see in all the increments there, look at the wind mile per hour, 50. So not expecting it to strengthen up anymore. And then as we go throughout Wednesday into Thursday, expected to become extratropical. It's going to be moving its way into cooler ocean waters. And I'll show you that here. So look at our water temperatures along our coast. Again, this is why we have this zone for us early season, is because the Gulf and right up the coast of east coast of Florida there, you get these very warm water temperatures where you can see just to our north and actually off our coast as well. Water temperature 90 degrees, 90 to 91, Miami down through the Keys as well. Now, even on the east coast there, we do have that 78 along the Outer Banks. That's where the Gulf Stream pushes out to the northeast, and then up above that you have the cooler water temperatures. So there's where Tropical Storm Dexter is right now. Again, 45-mile-per-hour winds. It is moving at about 14 miles per hour. And again, not expecting to strengthen up anymore, but look how it moves into that cooler ocean waters as we go throughout end of the week and towards the weekend. That's where it is expected to become extratropical, which means it still has the same miles per hour for your wind speeds. It's just not a tropical low anymore. It transitions to a cold core low, which is actually how it started off of a stalled front. Look at all that wind shear, though, it's going to be dealing with as we go throughout really the rest of this week and into the weekend. And again, that's one of the reasons why, back this up here and look at that blue, and that is, of course, due to that front. Look how strong that is from west to east. And you can see it doesn't lift up too much, and that's exactly what Dexter's going to be running into. And it looks like, again, it's right now over some very warm ocean waters. And so at least in that aspect, conditions are favorable. But it's going to be running into that wind shear, so not expected to strengthen as we go throughout the remainder of the week again. And then it's going to run into those cooler ocean waters. So there it is with that wind shear. And you can see it here on this one. This is the European model. There it is, the yellows and the orange. And then again, watch it gradually die out as it moves this way up towards the northeast. So that's Dexter for you. Now let's go back again. We have the other two. Again, the one that is looks to potentially develop off the coast of Carolinas, maybe Jacksonville. That one would follow the same suit. If it does develop, it would follow Dexter in the way that it's going to track. That would track away from us. Then we have the one coming off the coast of Africa. You see the water temperature again we just talked about, but look at your water temperature anomaly here. And it's not that much warmer than normal. And look, of course, down closer to the equator, we have cooler than normal. So we're starting up monsoon season, which of course is why the 90% of the tropical activity happens after August the 1st, is because we get the monsoon season. That's where we get those hardy waves that come off the coast of Africa. And again, we still have some dust out there. So that is one of the things that we're going to be watching for this one. So overlay where this one's coming off the coast, and you can see the tropical dust forecast. So here we go for today, and look how much dust. So yep, 2 days from now. So Wednesday into Thursday is when it's expected to be just in the very far eastern portion of that orange polygon there, that blob there of orange. Look at all this dust coming off the coast. So again, dust will not completely kill a system, but it could hinder from further development because it does help dry things out. Again, we do have some very warm ocean waters there, so it's going to pick up a lot of moisture. The dust will help dry it out a little bit more. We could see a system that maybe is very slow to develop. If this one gets organized before we see the dust, again, it might not kill it out completely, but it does help dry out those mid-levels, and you can see going into next week, another large plume of dust coming off the coast of Africa. So these are all things that are going to hinder really from this thing strengthening. Again, we don't even have an invest just yet to see what the forecast models are showing on the potential for intensity of this one, but you can kind of see if you look at the ensemble models, which unfortunately we don't have in the system to show you. Once it gets to the very western portion of that orange area, it does start make a northerly turn. This one doesn't go that far up, but you can see it here with the tropical model here. So this, what you see in the blue, is high pressure. So what it does is it tries to steer around that green, that blue, that again is high pressure. So if it comes off the coast of Africa, all it's looking for is the weak edge of that to make that turn up to the north. You see how far east that is. So that one's going to be making that turn up towards the north. At least that's what the forecast models are showing right now. Don't know the exact track, don't know the intensity if there is any. Again, it does have a medium chance for tropical development over the course of the next 7 days. So that's all we're watching in the tropics right now, because again, this is when really things start to ramp up for the main development region, the Gulf and the Atlantic off the coast of Florida and up to the Carolinas is where we typically see the early season, because we warm up a lot quicker, and we have what happened with our first three systems really, especially Chantal, where you see one that develops off of a stalled front and you get that area low pressure that transitions and becomes tropical. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we go throughout this week, of course. So we're going to keep an eye on it all the way through the end of November. But what we have for us going on right now is more of a pattern shift for some rain chances. So, Mike, are we talking more about tropics, or are we gonna talk about rain chances coming up here?
No, just a little mixed mesh of both. Great synopsis as always. Dr. J in the house, and here I'm Master P. And he showed the tropics, and the one theme I got from James is here at home. Yeah, we're watching things very closely as always. We're going to keep checking back with friends, family every day. That's what we do here. Is once we're in August for tropical season, that's when we're really heading into the meat and potatoes of the season, so to speak. And really, as we head into August, what we're seeing right now, the main storm track, we're figuring out where that high pressure is setting up, where the track's going to be. And you see there's three predominant tracks. What we've seen over the last couple of years, okay, are the tracks number 2 and number 3. So you got one at the top. We love this first track. That stays mainly east of the U.S. as it curves around the high pressure. That means your Bermuda high is centered a little farther to the east. We're seeing more of that this year. In fact, if you look at the average climatology, that Bermuda high is about 500-600 miles farther west than we saw last year. That would tend to really steer those storms, so to speak, a little farther to the east and hopefully away from the United States like we've seen so so far. So right now, I'd still say track number 1 is the prevailing track, which is good news. The second track, of course, we don't like. We've seen this way too much toward Florida. And track number 3, going right through the Caribbean, Guadeloupe, Windward Islands to the south of Hispaniola, near Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and up into the Gulf of Mexico. So this is what we're going to watch, these big 3 tracks as we head into the heart of our tropical season. And notice this line goes all the way to Africa. The African wave train is what we call it. And there are indications that it's really going to be kicking up here over the next few weeks. So in the short term, yeah, very low threat to us in Florida, even with that hatched area James showed you just off our coast. Again, we'll watch it, of course. We take it hour by hour, day by day with you. But as we look at the overall picture, what we're watching in the tropical outlook, yeah, for the August 13th through the 19th period, still watching those 3 tracks with that African wave train staying very busy. So this Climate Prediction Center, as I take you a little more into the future, still showing some trouble. Okay, we're talking August 13th through the 19th. So don't be surprised to see some more hatched areas come off the African coast. Hopefully we can keep that high pressure in place where it is and keep steering these things to the east of the United States. But the long range models usually indicate, that they're not quite set in stone right now. Okay, so even though we're set in stone pretty good for the next 7, 10, 14 days, once we get to 3 weeks out, what I'm seeing with the long range maps is that high pressure could shift around a bit. So another reason to keep checking back, not only with the systems a little closer to home, but with what's coming our way in about 2 to 3 weeks, especially I've got my calendar circled for that August 20th week and as we finish out the month. In fact, as we bring it back to home, we're looking for big weather impacts this week, but hey, at least we don't have any weather impact advisories. We're not looking at the extremes we saw last week. We had the extremes of temperatures, of rain, of storms. Now, today it's pretty hot. Don't get me wrong. We've got the heat stroke little symbol there because if you don't slow it down, it is heat stroke weather. And we've got plenty of impacts with the heat today as my main impact. But notice as we head through the week, yeah, we're keeping those medium impacts all the way through. All right. And we're going to see a transition from the heat to the big umbrella weather. All right, we're getting out our umbrellas again because it is the peak of rainy season out there. And if you look at the climatology for rainfall, August is the month where we see most of the rain. So what we're seeing right now is a little pause in that tropical season. In fact, here's our weather watcher sending in these beautiful pictures of what we call some cirrus sunrises, and that was Cindy Nelson sending that in. That was at the Gandy Bridge. And what we're seeing are these debris clouds coming from the tops of cumulonimbus clouds of storms that have been forming elsewhere in Florida. So we saw this trend over the weekend where most of North Florida and to our east saw the big storms, and we got the little spill, the little cirrus spin-off from those storms, and we were left with nature's beauty. So if you have some beautiful pictures to send in, we always love sharing those. So open your cameras and you just see that little QR code. All right, so that'll take you right to where you need to send those pictures. So I want to thank Cindy for sending that in. As far as our big impact, yeah, my map looks like lobster again. It looks hot. Yeah, I'm hot just standing next to it. You see all the red on the screen. Today, a pause in our rainy season, okay? And that's because that main front over the weekend that's been across South Georgia is staying there. It's not moving our way. So we're in a drier regime in the atmosphere. We've had these sun showers across the area so far today, mainly along the coast, and they've lasted about 5 minutes. So these rain chances will continue to come down for the rest of your afternoon. In fact, the big story, the heat, Wesley Chapel, you see that little thunderstorm symbol. Don't count on it. Okay, I'm calling for parched plants in 93 degrees. We've had a couple showers around Tarpon Springs today, this morning, also Pinellas Park and here at Gandy. But again, these showers are going to continue to be very few and far between. And it looks like the best chance of some of those showers and storms for the rest of our afternoon will be as you get just off to the east of I-75. So we're looking for eastern Hillsborough County. Plant City would be one of the spots that may cool down for 5-10 minutes. These are very small showers. So you see that 95. Yeah, we could use a little bit of rain. Then we go to the south and we've got temperatures once again well above normal. You've got low to mid 90s, but if you factor in the humidity, we're talking about a heat index closer to 105, 106, 107. So once you get to 105, that's some serious heat, even by Tampa standards. So please slow it down if you're in Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch, Northport. You may see 93 for a high, but feeling a lot hotter than that. Then we go inland, and this would be my chance for a couple storms. You know, our meteorologist Bobby Deskins will be in this evening, and he'll pinpoint maybe 1 or 2 storms, and that would be for areas like Frostproof, Sebring maybe, but again, more of a miss on the rain. So it's all about heat safety today. We're talking about wearing light colored clothing, taking frequent breaks from the heat, water, water, and more water. All right, and in fact, I've got a some electrolytes I'm mixing in my water today, protect the people, pets, and plants, and we are seeking activities in the air conditioning. So one of the big questions I've been seeing on Facebook, we're talking tropics, and our team has been focused on where, these systems are going to form, where they're moving, and we've been talking about, and James has done a good job saying most of the activity we're seeing out in the Atlantic. So I know we're getting those last minute vacation cruises in, and by all means, I think you're going to be fine on your cruises, okay? So if you look in the Caribbean, it's actually mainly cloud free with lots of Saharan dust, and that extends up into the Gulf of Mexico. So if you're going to Cancun, keep those plans. Grand Cayman, doesn't that sound good right now on this Monday, low 90s? Santiago and San Juan into the low to mid 90s, and along with Aruba with plenty of sunshine. So as we look at the overall trend, we know that the big activities right now into the Atlantic with that main storm track, and the farther south and west you go, the quieter it is. But look at the trend. So we're looking long term again. Here's Tuesday. We're starting to see a better chance of some of those rain showers start to fill in across the area. So rainy season will come alive here in Florida here over the next couple weeks. So this pause won't last long. Good news for our plants, right? And maybe cooling us off a bit closer to normal. That'll help. But if you look at the trend also, we've got the purples over Florida, and then you've got the reds and the yellows up toward the Carolinas. So if we do get any tropical trouble, likely spinning to our north and northeast again with most of the heavy rain, that would enhance those rainfall totals from Wilmington to Charlotte to Raleigh and up into Richmond, Virginia. But for here, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, this is more typical of what we would see for this time of year. In fact, as we look at what's not typical, it's this forecast heat index. You're going to hear a lot, we're used to this. We're not used to this. Our heat index usually tops out if you look at the averages, highs, the lows, and then you factor in the average dew points. We should be at about 102. You see what I see? I don't see 102. I see 108, and that would put us in the danger zone as we head through the rest of the afternoon. And then you see 106 at 4 o'clock, 104 at 5. So that's why when we look at the radar for the rest of today into this evening, we're talking about, with a lack of rainfall, these dangerous heat index values, or how it feels in the shade. And that'll continue all the way into the evening. So 103. What we were talking about this morning on 10 Tampa Bay News this morning was maybe doing some of that tax-free holiday shopping for school supplies, hurricane supplies. Good idea. That'll help keep you cool. I like grocery shopping. That's what I do. Okay. I like my food. And then as we head through the evening, notice temperatures still in the 90s all the way through 11 o'clock. Now, if we're looking for some change, this map, you see 94 for the rest of the day, 103 to 108, 30% chance. And we're focused on the dark green areas. That's your best chance of rain here. Not much out there. Tomorrow, one change could be we're going to see more of the deeper greens over more of us. So you've got a better chance of some of those showers adding up a little bit instead of a sun shower. And that includes some of our coastal counties. So a better chance of some of that rain toward the coast, including Clearwater. So we'll keep an eye on that. Some models have it breaking out as early as noon. Others have a couple rounds. We get one round along the coast at noon, maybe a little break, and then another round coming at us as we head into late day into the evening. So we'll continue to fine tune that rain timing. Right now, we've got our best chance of that thunder right around 5 o'clock. As we look at the big picture, we're getting ready to show you the long range here, but first things first, we see the moisture in the PWs, which we like to call how much moisture these storms have to work with. And notice as we head through Tuesday, starting to see a little bit of a change, some of the deeper moisture and the deeper greens coming for us here in Tampa. But again, this is more of a typical pattern. And then if you look off to the north and northeast with that area of low pressure trying to develop, that's just off Charleston there. It looks again like your biggest plume of moisture heading toward the Carolinas. So our expected rainfall totals, they'll start to go up. Okay, so notice the chances go from 30% on our Monday to 40% Tuesday, Wednesday, back up to 50% as we head into late week. So nothing to keep you from looking forward to the weekend. In fact, my Monday motivation, James, the Titans are coming to town. I'm ready for some football. I know you like the Panthers there. I'm watching my Jaguars too. Yeah. And don't forget about the Commanders. And then we take a look. I just love football, can you tell? So 82 degrees at kickoff, and I do have that 40% chance of a storm. Usually here in Tampa, we'll have the east wind in the morning and the southwest wind come at us. And I do think we're going to have the sea breezes try to collide a little closer to Hillsborough County. So I'll put in a 40% chance at 7 o'clock. 82 with maybe a moderate risk or impact. But for the game, I'm thinking a low impact, great football weather. And we're looking forward to football because eventually fall will get here and some cooler days will get here, but not anytime soon. Okay, so here's the reality check. 7-day forecast. We've got 30% chance of rain for the rest of our Monday, 94. We'll see a little increase in that rain Tuesday. I think you'll notice it, but I still think mainly late day, so that's why I kept the temperatures up in the mid-90s. And then
there it is. A little bit of relief, at least, back closer to 90 as we head into late week, into the weekend. And that'll be because we'll have more of those typical scattered showers and storms. So we're finding out here in Florida, there's no such thing as a typical day. Oh, that's what we can always pick out. So our job's to pick out what's different, where it's going to rain, when it's going to rain, and keeping everybody updated.
Yeah, and the whole point is you can't exactly pinpoint exactly when, exactly where, but we can, it's when you talk about those increased rain chances, we talk about we've kind of been dry for this past week. So what we're looking at is that what we call the regime change from last week through this week, and which is why Mike showed you the numbers, 30 to 40 to 50 to 60, because we're going to start to get that pattern shift. It's all about where that high is and where our flow comes from. So if you look at the radar now, we have our flow out of the south and then southwest, and that is the pattern that we were in all last week. We were in through the weekend, and there you go. There is that shift, there is that flow as we go throughout your afternoon from the southwest. And that is the pattern that we were in all last week, which is why most of the rain skips over top of us. And when the moisture pushes inland and it heats up, because of course land is much hotter than that water is, then you're going to have that lift. So there we see the moisture there in the green pushing its way over. That is the lower rain chances. Yellow is a little bit better, orange is the best. So what happens is we push all the moisture over top of us, and then that's where you get those showers and storms like we're expecting to see, but only just a few for this afternoon, which would be Polk, Highlands, maybe Hardy and DeSoto, and pushing their way towards the east. So the transition that we're making as we go throughout today, tomorrow, and then eventually towards the end of the week is this one. This is regime number 6, and this is the one that we typically get set up here in South Florida. That's why we talk about this is the rainy season. This is where we get most of our moisture. And you'll see it because it's the combination of the moisture and the sea breezes. We're always going to have a sea breeze because the land temperature as we go throughout the day heats up more. But whenever we have that southeast shifting to southwest throughout the day, that is where we get this regime here. So you see all the moisture pushes its way in, gets lifted up, and we get the combination of the sea breezes happening right over, again, Tampa. And this is the west of 75, and this is where you see those sea breezes clashing. So again, with that other regime, you see the sea breeze pushing further inland, then them clashing inland, and that's where you get the better rain chances to the east of 75. So this is the pattern that we're going to see setting up over the course of this week. That's why, again, you go back to those rain chances, and that's where you see the rain chances going up. Mike even showed you the 7 days. So you go to 30 to 40 for a couple of days. The Tuesday into Wednesdays, we start the shift, and then Thursday, Friday, into the start of the weekend is where we go from 50 on to 60. And again, talking about that dangerous heat. The one thing that is good news about the rain, well, we know we need the rain. Drought monitor, I'll show you that here in just a second. We definitely still need the rain, but we are looking at the heat index. Again, look at today. We're on that threshold of having a weather impact alert, which is right there at 108. But there'll be a lot of spots that are going to be just slightly below that. Then you increase those rain chances Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday into Saturday. And like Mike was talking about, 100 to 102 for us is considered normal. 91 with a heat index of 101 is completely normal here. Whenever we talk about, and I see a lot of the comments on Facebook, when we have our weather impacts alert, like this is just typical. No, it's not. 108 is not. Even 106 is not. But when you get between the 100 and 103, which we'll see Wednesday all the way through next Monday, that is what we consider typical heat. And when we get the typical heat is when we have those rain chances. So again, that's what we need across the area. Again, the drought monitor was just updated last Thursday and didn't see much of a change. It looks like Miami did dry out a little bit more, but if you see our area, you see that yellow, that is dry. And then you just see that small spot of moderate up along the nature coast. So really haven't seen much in terms of very heavy rain up there. Of course, they were severe before we had, I think it was the first Invest 93 that we were, that was possibly Dexter that we were looking at that really helped the nature coast, because as that low moved to the north and then cross over, they got heavy rain north of I-4. And that again did really help out. But if you look, and this again, this is just one model here that is showing the rainfall, and you can see, again, There we go. Wednesday, Thursday, look at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's where we're full on that pattern shift, and we get the typical rain. Anywhere above that 2, again, is good coverage in rain, and that's what we definitely want to see as we go towards next week. Mike?
Yeah, for sure. In fact, we come back, we take a look at our hurricane names so far. So far in 2025, 4 tropical storms here as we look at this, Dr. J. So as we go through August, we've got 4 tropical storms. We've got Aaron next on the list, Fernand, and Gabrielle. You want to make the call? I'm going to say as we finish out August, we're going to stick our necks out there. I'm thinking we will have a hurricane before the end of August, maybe 2, and I do think we'll get through the list to Gabrielle. So are you going to go with me on that? You
Yes.
think we can get at least 3 systems and maybe 1 or 2 hurricanes of those? So another reason to take advantage of the tax-free holiday out there. In fact, the hurricane facts show this. The first named storm is usually June 20th, first hurricane August 11th. So boy, we may be right there. I think we're right on par. First major hurricane September 1st, may see that as well. But again, prepare now, develop the evacuation plan, assemble the disaster supplies, food, water, batteries, radio, and cash. Get that insurance checkup, create the communications plan, and strengthen your home. And some of the tax-free stuff that we're showing on our website, if you have a question as to what is tax-free this year, there has been a change, but I do know generators are covered in that supply list. So take advantage, stay cool, do some of that shopping today, and stay safe.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And of course, we're going to continue to track the tropics here. So join us here we'll be back at midday, and we'll talk more about the tropics and more about what's going to be happening over the course of this week. As again, we're going to see some increased storm chances across the area, which is going to help us beat the heat. So definitely join us here coming up at midday.